Hey guys, welcome to yoga. We are going to play around with some back bending today. So all my back benders, let's get ready. We're gonna start out on our backs and do a few rounds of bridge pose with our breath. So go ahead and come onto your back and let's pause for a second and just draw the knees in. You can wrap your arms around your shins, maybe grab your elbows. And this is a bit of balancing, so if you roll over, don't worry, you can just push yourself back up. If you want to reach your arms out for a little bit, you can make this harder by bringing your forehead toward your knees. You can make it easier by relaxing down and just drawing your knees into your chest. What we're going for is this stretch in the low back, making the back really long by pulling the knees in. So start to make some circles here if you haven't already. Try to go in one direction a few times and then switch it up and go in the opposite direction. And then coming to center, cross your ankles. You can have your hands to the backs of your thighs and we are going to rock forward. So you may take your feet up a little bit, give yourself a few rocks just to get ready, and then when you feel ready, rock forward. If it takes you a few tries, don't worry. And just come into a nice, easy, cross-legged seat. Let's take the hands to the knees, cup your knees with your palms, and just start to circle around. Make these circles as big as you can. After you've gone in one direction a few times, switch it up, start to go the opposite way. And just notice what you feel here. There may be some tension or some tightness. If that's the case, just notice it and then let it go. You may notice that you feel really good today, that your back feels really good. So whatever you feel, just take note of it, file it away. Let's come to center. Inhale the arms up, take a big deep breath. Exhale, let's side bend to one side. Try to engage the core and keep the hips grounded as you lean, so you're not slumping to one side, but actively reaching over. Arms are straight. You may have your hands wide, or if it feels good, you can have your palms together. Just pay attention to your shoulders. Good. Take one more round of breath here. Big inhale, big exhale. With your next inhale, come on back to center. And exhale to the other side, keeping the core engaged, really using the sides of the waist to power into this stretch. So it's a strengthening stretch. Your gaze can be up. If that feels like it's a little too much on your neck, you may look down or you can look dead ahead. One more full round of breath here. Maybe lean a little more into it. And then let your next inhale bring you back to center. Drop your hands to your shoulders. Start to circle your elbows around. So what we're doing is warming the whole body up from our shoulders and our neck and the top of our backs all the way down the spine. And then we'll talk about the most important part of back bending, which is the legs. So when we think about back bending, we think about our backs, right? We don't think about our legs as much, but it's really these muscles, your quadriceps, the muscles in the fronts or the tops of your thighs, as well as your hip flexors. You have bands of muscle right here on either side. This is the first set of muscles to contract, to work each time you take a step, each time you sit down, stand up. So as you can imagine, these muscles get a lot of work. They tend to be really tight. If you're trying to go into a back bend, you're actually stretching the front of your body. So from your chest all the way down to your knees, it needs to be really opened up and really stretched out for you to feel comfortable in a back bend. So this is the safe way, and it's also the most effective way to get a really deep back bend in. And aside from being fun to do, back bends are great because they stretch out all these muscles that get worked so hard and stretched relatively rarely unless you do yoga every day. So let's start out on our backs. let's do those bridge poses we spoke about a moment ago. So I want you to focus in these bridge poses, not on your back, which is where we normally tend to focus, but on the thighs and on the core, including the hip flexors right here. So everything right in the center of your body. Keep your attention here. Take your arms down by your sides. Make sure your shoulders aren't all squunched together. And then make sure your feet are about hip distance. So feet are not together, feet are not out here. Feet are basically same distance as your hips. On an inhale, press down into your feet to lift your hips. As you exhale, roll down nice and slow, as slowly as you can do it. Imagine each vertebrae having its own little chance to meet the mat. When your tailbone comes down, we'll go back up on the inhale. So rolling up, pressing up, exhaling, rolling down, controlling it nice and slowly. And just take your time here. As you start to feel more comfortable, as the body warms up, you may feel like taking the hips a little bit higher, and you may even want to stay in the pose for a moment. So again, this is bridge pose. Now we are going to sort of squinch the shoulders together, tuck them under your back. Think about bringing your shoulder blades close to each other. Interlace your fingers under your low back, and then, sorry about my cat, start to lift your hips by pressing down into your feet. Carter. Sorry about that, guys. So press down into your feet, up with your hips, and forward with your knees. And I apologize for the technical difficulties here. Got some new equipment to make these videos, and it's not quite working out the way I thought it would. Okay, sorry y'all. So let's start again. Inhale to lift the hips, pressing once more down through the feet, forward through the knees, up through the thighs. So fingers can interlace, walk those shoulders in, and keep pressing the hips up. It's really natural here to want to lift your heels. This will make the pose easier. So if you need to lift your heels, you can lift your heels. Keep in mind, this does take you out of the deeper back bend. So if you're looking for that really deep back bend, maybe trying to get into wheel pose, keep your heels down. This is what's giving you this big stretch through your quads and your hip flexors. Now, if you feel solid, you're going to bring your palms down, pinkies are out, thumbs are in. Press into your hands to lift yourself up. In yoga, we call this Urdhva Dhanurasana, or wheel pose. You're sort of imagining your body like a wheel. So let's talk a little bit more about stretching the quads. These are your quads. We're going to come into a seated position with the knees together. I want you to move your calves out of the way. You can just take your hands, literally just kind of slide your calves out of the way and come to sit between your heels. If this is massively uncomfortable, or really only a little bit uncomfortable, you can take a blanket or anything soft and have that behind your knees. If it still just feels like really too much, have a seat on your heels. The benefit to sitting with the heels apart and your bum between your feet is it allows these muscles to start to stretch. Just from being in this position, you can see how they elongate a little bit. So what can we do in this pose? A lot of yoga is finding sort of the foundation of poses and then adding what you need for your body. So a lot of y'all are really stretchy, and again, really into back bends. If this is the direction you want to go, you're going to start to take your palms down, just like this. Your fingers will point toward your big toes, and you can slowly start to walk your hands back. When you feel that deep stretch, stop right there. You don't want to be in pain here, but some of you are going to have to go much deeper into the pose to feel this stretch than others. Some of y'all, this is going to be plenty. Some of you, I know from experience, are going to need to come all the way back to feel this because you're already really flexible. So you can stop on your elbows. If you want to go even deeper, you can come all the way onto your back and then reach your arms overhead or grab your elbows. Feel free to stay here for as long as you like. This can be a few rounds of breath, or if you're comfortable staying in this position, you can stay here for 3 minutes or even 5 minutes. Make sure you keep breathing, make sure you keep checking in with the body. When you're ready to come up, I like to take my hands to my heels. You can use your elbows as well and just drive your elbows down to come up. Or kind of work your way up, press into your feet, come up nice and slowly, and then give yourself a minute to sort of recalibrate. That pose can be rough on the knees because you're putting a lot of pressure into those joints. So let's take a little trip to down dog. Hands plant, hips up and back. Make this a short little down dog. So feet together. Let's keep the knees bent and just press the chest back toward the thighs. Try to line your arms up with your ears. And let's just rock forward and back. Inhale to come forward, almost in a plank pose, or maybe completely into plank pose if that's what you're feeling today. And then back to down dog. Inhale to come forward. Exhale to go back. Inhale to come forward. Exhale to go back. Good. A few more times, just like this. It doesn't feel probably like you're doing much, but this is really teaching your body, oh no, this is really teaching your body how to deal with that transfer of weight. All right, so let's come into just a normal down dog. Why he is so fascinated with the camera, but let's come back into our down dog. All right, so from here, let's start to walk the feet forward, nice and slow. Pour your weight into your hands. And then take the feet a little bit wider than your shoulders. Bend your knees, maybe a lot, maybe just a little bit. And slowly just fold over your legs. Feel free to hold on to your elbows. You can sway from side to side here. Try to relax your head. And allowing the hamstrings to get really opened up here is going to help with any tension you may feel in your low back. Start to rock from side to side. Getting into the hips, into the inner thighs a little bit. Go as far to each side as you can. Flex your feet as you go from side to side. If you need to have a hand down for balance, you can have your hands or hand down. If you feel pretty solid here, try taking your arms up and just going from side to side. Nice. All right. So let's come back to center. Find that forward fold again. And then bring the knees down. Let's talk about another way to back bend. So this is a kneeling back bend, and we call it Ustrasana in yoga. It's also called camel pose. And in this pose, you're essentially doing the same thing we did when we were on our backs on the floor. You're just standing on your knees instead. So just like we pressed down through our feet, forward with our knees, and up with the thighs, we're gonna transfer that into this pose. So down through the knees, forward through the entire front of the body. You want your hip bones to be pressing forward. Take your hands down. If your hands don't want to come all the way to your heels, I recommend grabbing literally anything. It can be a shoe, it can be a block, whatever you want, and you can have your hand there. Give yourself a double chin, slowly take the gaze up. And if it feels comfortable to you, you can start coming farther and farther back. Big stretch through the front of the body. So when you come into the pose, as you breathe, think about sending your breath into all these muscles in the front of the body, the hip flexors, the chest, the core, all of it. When you're ready to come out of it, make sure you inhale your way back up, and then slowly find a seat. Take a couple of deep breaths. Maybe do some circles with the head. And then taking the knees wide, give yourself a little bit of a child's pose, nice and slowly coming into the pose. So now that we've bent the back, we're gonna let it bend the other way and sort of allow it to ease out of that back bend. Take a few long rounds of breath here. Feel free to be up on your fingertips or to let the head rest down. When you're ready, start to slowly come back up, tucking the chin, inhaling your way up. All right, from here, draw your hands together at your heart. Thank you all for joining me for this little yoga playtime. I hope you enjoyed learning about backbends. We went over the basics today. We'll go over some more in-depth stuff in one of our later videos. If you have any questions, reach out, let me know, and enjoy. Have fun playing around. Make sure you do it safely. Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to have fun. Namaste.